So this lesson's about knitted jumpers. As you can see from the line drawing, I haven't drawn in every little section of this, every stitch. I'll show you. First thing we're going to do is on this area under here, you can see some of the little strands and bobbles that are coming down from the wool, and that's just, if we put those in with the embosser, that's just going to give us a lovely texture when we come to marking this dark area where one arm meets the other. And you can just pretty much scribble them any old way, just fuzzy little texture, maybe some straight lines out coming out as well, and maybe a couple just over the surface, just so that when you're working you'll get a broken squiggly finish. It'll help build up the texture of the wool. The next thing you'll notice is that along this piece of knitted stitching there, I've just put some dots, and those dots represent these dark areas at the point of each of the two stitches that almost form like a heart shape. So from those dots I'm just going to do a V to the edges of my parallel line, and then same from the next one. Got my dots a little bit in the wrong place there, so I'm just compensating. And then just going to extend them by a tiny little curve each side of that line. I've just left the lines quite hard so you could see how I was going to build them up. So there we've got lots of little overlapping hearts. And I'm just going to put a very faint line down the centre. I've already put a little base of cream onto this area. I'm just going to use that to put our first area of colour down, a bit of shadow. So just at the top and bottom edges of the hearts where they overlap. And we've got another area here of the heart-shaped ones. And each of them is then going to be joined. I'm just drawing in a ladder effect, marking where they're all going to go. Check we've got a heart for each of those ladder sections. I'm just going to have a look at how this bit goes. So we've got on the right hand side kind of eye shape, like a bird, a seagull flying over the top. So the best way is just to get a little, see it as something else, and then you'll quickly be able to build it up. So it's like a seagull sitting on a rock, or trying to carry a rock away, maybe. There we go, so that's all marked in. I'm going to switch to my brown ochre and just marking all the points dots and little suggestions of dark lines in between, but not too much. We don't really want lots of hefty lines, just some of them. And if you make them random so it's not always the same lines you're showing, get a more natural effect. Obviously this is quite a pale jumper, so we're not going to be adding an awful lot of colour, but it just show you how you can build up the stitches. And it would be the same way of working for a colour jumper. You would do this sort of underdrawing first and then put the colouring over the top. I'm just going to switch to this grey, top and bottom, the same way we did with curls in hair, exactly the same. Just gives it a bit of shape. And again, you don't have to do every single one the same way. You could vary them or leave the odd one out. If you make it too uniform, too sort of regimented, too crisp of a pattern with every single one looking the same, it just won't look authentic at all. And here I'm just going to do a similar thing on the big eye shape, but then I'm also going to add a little bit of texture. So I'm just going to do a little random squiggly texture over it as well, try and get a bit of the texture of the knitting in there. And there you can see this part in here is going to be really in the shade. We'll just suggest those bits down there. And the top section of it is completely in shade. These ones you can see, but not the whole of them, so I'll just shade those in. And again, just using a bit of a wiggly stroke to suggest the woolliness of the cloth. And when we get down to this bottom bit where we put all the embossing, hopefully we should get a nice fuzzy edge. Just trying to realise the point at which that sleeve comes under. Yeah, you can see, hopefully you can see it showing up there. What nice embossing we put in. And then when here the knit pattern changes from the cuff to the main part of sleeve where it's just all stocking stitch all the way up on there, so it's just 3 rows of hearts. So this, the one with the stone and the seagull, now becomes another heart one. So you're more or less just drawing a zigzag all the way along, and you would just continue working that the whole of the jumper. It is quite painstaking, but if you get into little tricks like that, just making them into hearts instead of thinking about it, something really complicated, it's just break it down. Strings of hearts are easier to draw than knitting somehow. And don't get bogged down by every stitch being in exactly the right place. You just, once again, suggesting the texture and colour of something. Because after all, the main part of your portrait is the face. It's not going to be too much concentrating on the clothes. So yeah, you can see on the photograph that some of these points of the hearts have got larger holes in them. Not all of them. It's a very random dispersal of where they are. And you want to try and replicate that. You don't have to look at the photograph exactly and get all the same ones in the same places. Just as long as you've got some points where they've got larger gaps. And obviously you just would extend this the whole way along all the lines. This bottom bit here I'm just going to have a look at now, where it's one arm going under the other. As well as the embossing, I'm just going to add a little bit of a rough texture to the base of this top arm. And you can see that the shadow cast by that top arm is falling along these channels of the stitches. So I hope that's given you an understanding of how you would draw a woolly jumper. I'm going to leave it there for now.